we are coming up on discussing a film called Disclosure on Netflix, right? We talked about Halle Berry, and she was developing this character, which was a transgender character, and the transgender community came out, and Halle Berry even apologized to the transgender community about, wanting to play this role. Now, all throughout this documentary, there's some false premise in this documentary, right? As we break it down.
But it's based on what is, they said, their perspective.
It's their perspective.
Right.
But there's some false premise laid out in this story. Like, everything that they showed did not have to do with a transgender.
Right.
Like, Milton Berle dressing up as a woman was not him being a transsexual. He was dressing up as a female character.
Right.
Flip Wilson dressing up as Nadine.
Right.
He was dressing up as a female
Geraldine?
Nadine. Geraldine as a character was a female character that he was playing.
Right.
Martin Lawrence, Jamie Foxx,
Tom Hanks, bosom buddies.
That's right.
Yeah, they lived in a women's dormitory or a women's apartment complex, right? So it was the only thing affordable. So they would dress up like women in order to be able to live in the same residence as the women.
Because and they said that it was like a downing of women, but actually at that time that's what they were offering women.
Right.
Because women were not getting paid the same as men were getting paid.
Just like today.
And so to compensate, they gave young women a chance to have reduced
affordable housing.
That's right. And so that is not downing anything. That was showing you, it was actually giving you a social message, bosom buddies, that was wrong. And I'm sure it led to changes. Right? Probably not necessarily positive. They always...
Because, come on, like, I watched Martin every week, and Shanae was a woman across the hall. So the character was, Shanae was over the top, an over the top woman. She was a beautician. She had her own business, Shanae. So that had nothing to do with being a transgender. He played a woman.
That's right. So the premise of Disclosure is about how images, it opens up and tells you about how images have been detrimental to the psyche of those who believe that they were born in the wrong body, or who gravitated towards the feminine instead of the male perspective, right? And it also shows you transgenders who were once women who have made the transition over to being men. Chaz Bono being one of the more famous of it, right? And we first got hip to this situation with a movie called Paris is Burning, right? Where Paris is Burning back in the 90s, which Pose, we've reviewed Pose before on the show. Great show, but it sets you up to understand about the balls and all that, and how everything came to be. And some people were cross-dressers. Others were who felt that they were women and they were transitioning into being women. So it's all understandable and clear. Right. And so we're open-minded about it, but we have some concerns, and we're going to voice those tonight, right? So if you've never seen Paris is Burning, to get context, to know what's happening in this era right here, watch watch Paris is Burning, came out in the early 90s, then watch the first 2 seasons of Pose, right? And you can get the Hollywood version of what the film was, right?
The documentary.
Documentary, right? And then now there is Disclosure, which is a documentary about the many different eras of coming through from D.W. Griffith.
Right.
That's what it is.
As far back as
then, and how he had images of transsexuals in his films way back then.
Right.
There's nothing new under the sun. It's mentioned even in the writings in the Bible. You have this, right? So as we move forward, so it goes from D.W. Griffith and it moves forward. Now, remember D.W. Griffith from A Birth of a Nation that helped regenerate and revitalize the Klan, right? In the early 1900s, right? Right. So as they tell this story in this narrative of this documentary, they talk about again what made them feel ill, and what it is to be a transsexual, both male and female. Okay, so here's the concerns, right? Because there is a woman in the film named Sandra Caldwell. Right, her name is Sandra Caldwell. Now, when you see this woman, she's an American black woman. When you see this woman, I'm using the right pronoun.
Yeah.
Right. And when you see this woman,
you grew up watching her for years.
You will not know that she's not a woman.
You would not know that she was transgender.
You would not know that she was not born a woman. Okay, let's be clear.
Yeah, because she is a woman.
She's a woman now, but there's we're gonna get to that. So hold tight. So people, right here is a clip from Disclosure, and we're going to break it down. So stay tuned for this. Viewer discretion is advised. If you feel that your eyes are too much, but stay with us though, because we're gonna break this down, right? So here we go. Check this out right here. You might want to grab this. Yes.
What I had learned from the world of the balls, was being grand, and I pushed it all out.
Okay. So this is Sandra Caldwell, right? She was involved in the balls, but she didn't partake in the balls because what she learned from it, she saw the flamboyantness of being out there, and she wanted to push it out. She wanted to be what she'll say for herself what she wanted to be. So let's continue.
Living in my new pronoun that I've stealth. Come here. Come here. You know what it's like?
Okay, so wait a minute. Before we go any further now, this is Louis Gossett Jr. She's acting opposite Louis Gossett Jr. in this film, right? Does Louis Gossett Jr. know? Did Louis Gossett Jr. sign the release for them to use the film of his image with in this documentary with this woman who he did not know? Which gets into a little, if it's not disclosed, isn't it just a little deception? So let's continue on.
To go on a set and be afraid. Your head is trying desperately to stay in the scene. You wake up afraid, you go to sleep afraid, you're trying to figure out if somebody's gonna drop the bomb that day, the next day, when is it gonna happen? So you're just afraid all the time. You got so much on the outside. We'll just see how much you got on the inside. But anyway, I did what I have to do. It's called survival. It's called survival. I'm all right. I will survive.
She's a marquee actress, right? Yes. Character actress, right? This is the Cheetah Girls movie, right?
Right.
And so she's a marquee actress, and we went through years watching and seeing her in films and not knowing the transformation is incredible.
Right. So this is where I am confused because I don't understand what the problem is with Halle Berry playing that character in the film, right? So isn't it, she's an actress, she should be able to, Sandra Caldwell, right, is an actor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Halle Berry is an actor.
Mm-hmm.
So they should be able to act in whatever project they choose.
Exactly.
Like, I don't understand. I don't understand that. Like, I just feel like Halle Berry is being picked on because I feel like she should have the right to play that character.
Yeah, she's have a right because she's bringing shining light to this, right? And so so it's all of a sudden building a double standard.
A double standard.
It's a double standard. You can not disclose, be stealth, be in survival mode, not think of it as deception.
Right. You're acting.
And but not think of it as deception to let the people know that you're not actually born that way. Not actually born with fallopian tubes. Uterus and cervix and vagina.
And
you're not really born with that, but you can act these roles. But here's a woman who wants to portray, to shine light on a subject, and she can't portray it because she is a natural born female. Let's continue on.
I would never think for a moment that I was the only one. And you want to go and you want to say, girl, ain't we something? But nah, you just left it alone. I wish I could have. Man, wouldn't that have been good?
Okay, look. Alright, so, you know, as we're sitting here looking at the film, right? As we're sitting here looking at the film, disclosure, right? There's certain things that come to mind, like, you know, I'm with it. You want to act, you want to do it. Laverne Cox is in it. What's her name? Mock. Janet Mock. She's in it.
Right.
You know. The main point is, though, say who you are. It's deception, right? So here's the point. First, you're transsexual. Great for you. Live your life, right? For me, what makes up a woman, right? A woman, female, or what makes up a man, a male, a man, a male, is not the outside facade. It's not the outside facade. You can get the surgery. They even showed it. They had that video on Facebook running a few years back where they showed you how they do the surgery, how they slit and they tuck and they make the situation, and then they talked about how they use the hormones to make a certain area on the woman. You know, we're trying to keep it clean just in case children are watching, and make a certain area that grows to make that look, and it kind of resembles that anyway, right? What makes a man and a woman is the inner piping, right? So people can feel, and I'm with you, feel that way. And once you transition and you are successful in what you do, just don't be deceptive about it. Be open about it. That's why this movie is called Disclosure. You know, as that scene went on, as that sequence went on, where she talked about her situation, she talked about how she was outed, right? And she went in to play a transgender role on stage, in a stage play. And she told them that she was transgender. They said, what? We can't believe it. Then the media got involved, and then she was outed in an article, but by that time, times were changing, and as she looked at it, she said, all these people, all the different people were coming out and saying who they are. When did this take place? When did time change? Somebody didn't tell me. But look, people, to be honest, this is what it is. It's not the outer facade that makes a man or a woman.
Right.
Is what makes a man, when the little pup tent goes up and the man comes to attention and is able to ejaculate a certain substance into a woman that brings about a baby because the sperm fertilizes the egg, that is a man, right? A woman has eggs because she has fallopian tubes. She has a uterus. She has a clitoris. Not a clitoris, but she has a cervix. She has a vagina, and there's an entry point. The sperm passes past the cervix, goes into the uterine wall. The egg comes down from out the ovaries to the fallopian tubes, hooks to the side of the uterus. The sperm, thousands of sperm hit it. It then starts to begin and form a baby. The outside is not what makes a man or a woman, right? But I say, to each their own, live your life. But then when it comes into all of a sudden, you don't want people to play roles, but you want to have every role.
So you're just saying, just no double standards, right?
No double standards,
right?
Because you wouldn't want double standards,
right?
Happening to you, because this is what this is about, right? Double standards. Second, like I said, you do be happy, do you, right? But quit trying to push it down other people's throats. Like, do you, like, heterosexuals don't go around saying, well, there are some. And we used to say, as a couple, as we were dating first, and we would date with other couples, and we would see them kissing and lipping and lapping over each other. They look at us and say, y'all act like an old married couple. I say, we would look at each other and talk later and say, they're not going to be together long. And sure enough, because it's just a little too hyper,
over the top, like
just
extra
relax,
trying to prove like something. Well, you know what? Disclosure. The documentary was well done, well put together. Like they said, it's their perspective, so it's just interesting to see how it's interesting to see how everyone's mind works, right?
Yeah.
Because I do agree with they showed the Jeffersons, and there was an episode where George Jefferson
had an army buddy
who had surgery, transgender. And when he met up with George, and he was a woman, right? After having the surgery,
and looked so good as a woman that
right.
Weezy thought that George was actually
having an affair,
with a woman.
Right.
So George then brings a person who will be the stereotypical version of what you would think a transsexual would look like, and they said they were totally upset with that. Join the club, because when we keep on seeing these same images of people and they're not put into great context, like how Dave Chappelle played the crackhead, but he put it into a perspective that people would be able to understand and get the satire in it. Right. So join the club. The disclosure. Cinematography. 10. The use of footage. 10. The narrative and the storyline. 10. The interview segments with the 2 to 3 camera shoots. That's a 10. Lighting, wardrobe, linking the past to the present, all that is a 10, right? The only thing I say was wrong with not the whole trans movement, but some. Remember that time when I was shooting models?
Right.
And then the person contacted me over the internet, and they had rose petals, right?
Right.
And so they had a picture of rose petals, and they had their breasts covered up, and the rose petals was covering up the area, right?
Right.
And so I said, yeah, sure, come in and sign up. So when the person came in, they came in with somebody that we knew that was a customer of ours, right? See, we didn't turn people away and think a certain way about different people's lifestyle. We saw all kinds of people, but they came in, and when I realized, I said, well, we like to shoot. We shoot women who were born women from the beginning. And then he went on to say, well, I look better than all them. Whatever, hey, whatever you believe. But the main point is, that's the thing. You want to call it stealthness, but it's deception. What if a heterosexual male or a heterosexual female, born a man or born a woman, want to have children one day, but find out that their partner that they have made a relationship with for years leading into getting married and starting a family, or maybe they want to start a family like what's happening out here where it's not necessarily marriage, but they come together as one and then they're married. What if they find out that the person is a facsimile, is a fax and not actual? That is not fair. They were misled. That's misleading. It's deception. So
well, that's where that just goes back to what I talked about earlier in the conversation. Just in any relationship period, it doesn't matter what type of relationship it is. Communication and honesty is important.
Very important.
So as far as that should be, it doesn't matter like what sex you are, what race you are, none of that should matter. Honesty should be the foundation of any and every relationship, just period.
No, it's not like Richard Pryor in his book. He picked what he thought was a hooker up who looked like Josephine Baker. He got into the room. He was high.
Right.
He got into the room and he saw that. He said, well, whatever. Right. But you got to tell the people up front, right? And they also talked about scenes in films where the transsexuals got beat up or they got murdered, right? Well, if it's a deception and the person wasn't looking for that, you got to step into the shoes of the other person. You got to let them know, just because you're trying to make money or you're trying to get a role or you're trying to live life, it's better to live life open and then people will accept it. And there will be people who will accept
and
that.
For safety reasons.
For safety reasons alone.
To just like let people know, because if they're a kook, you need to know that they're a kook before you go off with them and they do something heinous to you or murder you.
Right. So, but what do we know? We're just a couple of heterosexuals. What do we know, right? What's going on to Athena Nelson? She's up here watching. I want to say what's up to you. Yeah, so what do we know? We're just a couple of heterosexuals. So what would you rate Disclosure?
I would give it a 10. It's a great documentary. It was a great history lesson because, like you said, like they went as far back as the black and white films. They even went as far back as films that didn't have sound. Right. So, and that was interesting, you know. And then what was also interesting to me is I love how they let you know in this documentary, this is just each person, because they talk to different people. It's their perspective. And it's interesting in how we all just have different perspectives. I mean, just growing up and as a little girl, you know, even into adulthood, when I saw like bosom buddies and when I watched like Martin and Living Color,
and Living Color.
Wanda,
Mm-hmm.
and then like you said, Flip Wilson played Geraldine. And even like, you know, when they show reruns of shows like that, right? The Flip Wilson show reruns of stuff like I Love Lucy, and when Lucy would dress up like sometimes like as a man to get out of certain situations.
Right.
I just saw all of these different actors and actresses just dressing up like either men or women, vice versa, to get out of whatever kooky situation they were. Even on Three's Company. I
Jack Ritter.
Right, yeah, when Jack had to dressed up as a woman to get out of the situation. But I never thought of it as like them as trying to be transgender. I just thought that they were just dressing up as like women or men.
So that
perspective is different.
That perspective is kind of skewed. You know, but they said that they gravitated towards that, so that we can understand that. But that's kind of skewed because they were not transsexuals; they were men or women getting out of a situation, right? So, other than that, Disclosure is a good documentary. I give it a 10 also. So watch Disclosure, watch Pose, the first and second season, and also watch the documentary that really set it off in the 90s, which is Paris is Burning, which brought a fair assessment and a fair representation of what was happening in the culture, in that culture at the time.
And I was happy to see Janet Mock in the documentary. Well, first of all, she's one of the executive producers for Pose, right? So, and I love how she just produces different projects and stuff, you know. And then she's a great writer. She has books out, and so it was good to see Janet Mock in the documentary. And like you said, Laverne Cox was in the documentary. She's a great actress. But you know what? I saw so many other like actors who
you wouldn't know
was transgender.
You wouldn't know.
But you know, but it doesn't matter because they're great actors, right? You know, so it's about the art. So that's why I was just don't think it's fair. Like the heat is being put on Halle Berry just because she wants to play a transgender role. I just think it's not fair.
It's not fair. And if they want to be treated fair, you know, they treat people fair.
Yeah, they should just make it not matter. Because when it gets to the point where it doesn't matter who plays what, then there won't be a stigma, right? So it's the point to get rid of this whole stigma.
Then there will be equality.
Right.
All right, people.